Coming up on this episode of the Spiro Podcast.
You're actually helping an agent. And I think when you can get that in your head, you're serving them and not selling to them. Like if they get more listings by you bundling together services, you are helping them.
Welcome to the Spiro Podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. With your hosts, Todd Kivimaki and Craig Magro.
Hello and welcome to the Spiro Podcast. Spiro is a real estate media platform designed to run your media business and help you scale. It's a platform that we built for our media business, Wow Video Tours, way back almost 23 years ago, and are still using it today and enjoying it with all of you. So on this podcast, though, we talk about the business of real estate photography, and you all are like, why does this sound differently? I'm not used to hearing Todd right now. And unfortunately, my partner in crime and better host of the podcast, Craig, is sick today. So Craig is getting some sleep today. And so you have myself, and we have a guest, though. So there is hope for this podcast because we do have a guest today. So you don't have to hear me mumble for 45 minutes. But we'll introduce him in a second. But I wanted to take a moment just to give you a quick Spiro update. So we are planned for a March 3rd launch. So we actually we had one big goodie in there, and it was so good that I asked the engineering team to push it quickly. That was the ability to quickly download video on iOS devices. So iPads and iPhones, it's a one click, don't have to, allow pop-ups, go to the files, then send it to your photos. You don't have to do that anymore. You literally click download, you click save video, it goes right to your camera. So you already have that. It's like an early Christmas present for you all. There's some other goodies in the March release. We are unifying the mobile pages for property websites, and then I'll do a full release that you all will get. So keep an eye out for that early March. And then in the next cycle, just so you all know, we're going to give you some really great updates for your ordering pages. Different ways to sell better. We're actually going to talk about bundling and selling today. So just wanted to mention that. If you'd like more information or if you want to contact us, you can reach us hello@spiro.media or on our website, spiro.media. The platform is free to sign up for, so sign up for it, give it a try. And if you need help signing up, we have a great onboarding team, concierge team that can help you. All right, without further ado, I want to jump in here. Our guest is has become a good friend of mine as we see each other at conferences and get to talk about life. We just have a lot in common and a lot of connections and a lot of the same things we do, which is always kind of cool. And he came out and they supported our Spiro Sync, which was this last January in Ohio. So super appreciative of that. Many of you know him and love him, but if you don't know him, we'll give you an introduction. He is the sales director of Cubicasa, Aaron Smith. Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Todd. I think the first thing is, that event, going into a first year event is always interesting. You never really know what it's going to be like and what's the attendance going to be like, what's the space going to be like, what's the food going to be like. But honestly, you and the team just crushed it. We had incredible conversations, great evening events, just great content all around, and just like a really high level of involvement from the attendees to us, other sponsors. That space, I'm going to butcher the name, but the Aileron campus,
yes.
Aileron campus was incredible. I hid away for a couple hours each afternoon by a fireplace to get some work done, and I was just like, I could live in this space. So you and the team and Shannon, everybody just crushed it. And so, excited to run it back again next year, and then also, continue on with the partnership that we have and things like that. So thanks for having me, and excited to kind of have a good conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. It was a great time. We are getting ready or getting close to announce dates and location of the next Spiro Sync. So keep an eye out for that. Also, if you weren't able to attend, the video recordings are almost complete. So keep an eye out or email us hello@spiro.media. Let us know that you would like to get a hold of those, and we can let you know how to do that. And then if you did attend the conference, you'll automatically get an email with those recordings and also some photos that you can download of the event. So thank you for your support, Aaron and Cubicasa, on that. We couldn't have done it without you. So Cubicasa is an industry standard. We use it at WOW for all of our floor plans. I know many and all of you do as well. And we're going to get to a great topic of bundling and packaging, but I think it's super important. And I felt this even more in the room at Sync, and especially out at dinner the nights that we did and in the in-betweens, that understanding and getting to know humans on a human-to-human level is just so important. And as we can connect with people, we can align with, or we can relate to them, and then we can understand them and we can learn from them. So I'd like to start off, Aaron, if you will, maybe just give us a introduction as to how you came into the industry, a little about you, so that our listeners who don't already know you have an idea of your path into the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I am a longtime resident of Michigan, the great state just north of the other state, Ohio, where Todd lives. First and foremost, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I've got 2 young kids, 7 and 10. We live out in the middle of nowhere, kind of like Todd. Todd's a video commercial of him in the cornfields feels very, very familiar to me in my life. But I've been around the real estate industry for the last 10 plus years. I have kind of a weird background. I started out after Bible college in sales, then got a job in a church, and then ended up back in the sales world and met 2 founders of a real estate photography company called Next Door Photos right around 2015 or so. And so at that point, they were kind of starting to think about how to scale the business and start up new locations and kind of a joint venture and franchise model. And I raised my hand, and I was trying to sell them life insurance, but I ended up with a real estate photography business. So I met my match in the sales format there, and somehow ended up in this business. I had never touched a professional camera in my life. I'm not particularly creative in that sense, and I only knew real estate from the sense that I owned a home, and that was as far as I knew. But the mission and the purpose of what they were doing, and they're a very mission-driven company. They've got a lot of community aspects that they like to point in local business and things like that really drew me to them. And so in 2016, I launched my first real estate photography business in the southeast side of Michigan. So over the next couple of years, I learned a lot about putting toilet seats down in photos, not using an unsteady tripod when you're using multiple exposures, because editors don't like exposures that move. Who knew? I didn't know that. And so we scaled that location. It ended up becoming 3 locations. A couple of years later, I joined the kind of corporate entity as their director of sales, and we just continued to kind of grow the business from there. I left and came back to them, and then I found myself at Cubicasa about 3 and some change years ago. And so, what really drew me to Cubicasa was, the big mission of getting a floor plan on every listing. It's really nice to have an anchored thing that every day when you check your calendar or your to-do list, like what is the one thing and the multiple things that you're going to do to continue to drive that, outcome. We believe that consumers like floor plans. They want to see them more often. And so we work to create programs, products, services to help enhance that. And so that's where we are today. Outside of work, we're active in our church community. We like to go skiing, which we're hoping to do this weekend. I think it's supposed to be 55 here in Michigan, so we'll see if that works. But I am addicted to golf, but my skills and scores do not reflect that addiction. So it's a bit of a weird deal there. But other than that, yeah, happy to be on here, chat about kind of what we've got going on, how we see, the market and how to sell services across bundles and packages, and just have a great conversation with my newer friend, Todd.
Yeah, love that. So one thing that you mentioned, I learned a new word at Sync, Aaron. F-pole. Right? Is that, that's how you, right? What is that? What is an F-pole?
Floor plan on every listing. So we are addicted to acronyms here. We have had more acronyms internally that we can count, and I present to our leadership often about where we're at, and I have to have a page on our slide deck that says current acronyms that I update every time we add a new one. And so I think we've got 6 or 7 internally. We tried to make one for building it while flying the plane, but if you try to make that one work, it just doesn't sound good. So that's one of the failed ones we've had. It's like woof football. But I think that is, we say it all the time. It's kind of funny. Lots of people know we have our company was started in Finland. And so we have this hodgepodge of culture of US and Nordic and Finnish culture and things like that. But FPOL is the standalone mission that we work towards every day. And we've all agreed once it happens, we're all going to get tattoos. So we're going to get it's either going to be FPOL tattoo or a floor plan. You choose. I'm probably going to go with floor plan because I don't want a lot of questions with what is FPOL, wherever it is going to be on my body. So, but yeah, that's what that stands for.
I love that. The thing I've learned over the years and screwing enough things up in business is the more that you can not take yourself so seriously, the better it is. I worked a lot of years inside of a building and with people that I was serious all the time. And it just is not a great way to go about leading a company. And just something as simple as laughing at the word FPOL is like, it's a funny word. It actually means something though. So it aligns your team. And I think it has just great value in that. And do you notice that it does it unify communication? What does that do just like internally for you guys, Aaron?
Yeah, good question. We do what we call focus periods, and we have 3 focus periods a year. And we use the OKR structure and everything that's kind of been made famous in Silicon Valley by Google. But everything anchors back to that one overarching goal is how do we get a floor plan on every listing? So what products are we going to bring to market? What sales strategies are we going to do? What tech enhancements are we going to do? How does it feed back to that? And so, that's the greatest alignment piece that we can have is nobody has a question about where we're headed. And so at the end of the day, if you're a salesperson, a customer service rep, an engineer, whatever it is, if what you're doing today doesn't reflect back to that one goal, then we probably shouldn't be working on it. And it goes down to things as your company knows, like continuous improvement, right? It's not the coolest thing in the world to be like, oh, I just maintain this and make sure it's okay. But if it goes down, that's the least cool thing. So we need that to maintain the same pace and excitement towards, FPOL as any other role, whether it's sales or something more forward facing.
Yeah. And the thing that I learned the hard way and a few times was that as the company grew, you would bring in people and those people worked close enough to me that enough of the information in my head spread to them. I think of the first office, it was basically one room. It was a very small space. There was a lot of communication. You could overhear phone calls. So everybody began to absorb the same information. So there was this not applied or not intentional communication that actually happened. And then the company grew, and many of you are experiencing this as you bring on photographers and admins. Your company will grow. And then you've created this habit or this habit or this idea of hey, I'm going to do the scary thing of hiring someone else, and it helps my company grow. The thing where I got caught up is I did that and I did it again and again and again. It's let's just hire more people, and that's going to mean a lot more growth. For me, I found that I got this plateau and almost like a dip back down where there was this cultural clash because I didn't protect it. We had our core values that we kind of talked about and tried to align to, but didn't do a great job communicating it. And we got a much bigger office where everybody had offices, and we worked a lot behind closed doors, and there wasn't this communication. So something as simple as your mission, your core values, FPOL, and make it fun. I think that all aligns back, just like Aaron mentioned, if engineers working on something and that is going to align back to getting a floor plan on every listing, leadership's going to look at it and say, okay, well, you were aligned with what we want to do. Is that kind of the thinking there, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been a part of companies that have done, long manifestos or vision docs, and all of those things are very helpful to anchor to. But being very laser focused on one simple thing that obviously has a cascading effect of many, many things and not so simple concepts and strategies and product development and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing just gives, the day you start here, or even the second you interview with us, that's some of the first things about who we are that come out of our mouths. And you could ask anybody who's been here for a day or 7 years, that's the mission. And I think, again, fun, simple, and clear. I think they say clarity is kindness, and I think that's what has really helped us. And, much credit to our president, Jeff, for keeping us aligned to that, because as you know, in this business, you can get distracted by a million different things. You could become something else, or want to have an expanded reach, or do something that doesn't align to your core offering. Maybe that's the right idea, but then does it point to the other things that you're focusing on?
Yeah. Such good advice there. I think something for us all to think about, especially as we get into busy season here for, this half of the world. So a little bit of a tangent there, but I think it's so important because sometimes we get so busy working in and not on the business that by the time we come up for air, I don't want you all to have this huge, massive problem that you're like, hey, I've just been in my own room for 2 years now and the company grew, but it's a bomb. So a little bit off tangent there, but let's get back. So a question about so you had this about 3.5 years ago, you said you joined Cubicasa out, and then you had 3 locations in the business. Were you using Cubicasa at the time? Was that your connection to it, or was Cubicasa still?
Yeah. So we were looking at it. It was still early days for the app, and they were right in the process of moving from their pay per use to kind of offering the standard that we have now, which is the Lite Plus and then like the Plus 3D. So there was no free product, things like that. We were still measuring hand measuring in field with lasers, and I tell this story to agents often, and photographers laugh, agents don't, but there are so many bay windows or curved walls that I just made it up. I was like, I don't have the expertise to measure this and understand what the circumference of this half wall is. So, when I got it into my hands for the first time, I just thought it was incredible. And then again, back to the simplicity of mission, I met Jeff at a conference. We were just chatting, and I really just thought it was interesting that such a simple product like a floor plan could have such a outsized impact on the real estate industry of like what consumers want. And I was like, okay, if we can do it, or they at that time, then that fundamentally changes how listings are viewed. And that's really cool. That hits people on every phase of life when they're searching for homes. And when I'm out and about, and if I see people on Zillow, or if I see them click on a floor plan, I just get all excited. And so, meeting Jeff, and then I met a couple other people from the team, and there was just a natural timing and fit. And so I made the move over from there. And, I always kind of say this too, like about Next Door Photos, is they were an incredible company. I'm very good friends with most of the folks still there, and, nothing but, great times there. But yeah, when I left, they were at like 49 to 50 locations, maybe a little bit more. I was their VP of sales, and, it was just the way timing works is when it happened.
Yeah, no, that's great. So looking at the idea of a floor plan on every listing, let's get into this idea, and something that you and I both love is this idea of bundling services. In fact, in Spiro, when you build an order page, you build a bundle. And if you have one or many items in there, like I love the idea of bundle. So it's a word that's near and dear to me. And we've seen the impact at our real estate media company of bundling items together. So if someone is, selling a lot of photos only right now, and, we understand that, that's a lower AOV or average order value, what do you suggest? What should that individual begin thinking about working on, and how does floor plans build into that?
Yeah, I think the best thing someone can do is start at market research. Understand who's around them, what they're doing. In this business, you get a feeling of who's being, picked up faster, who in the office is winning more business. Maybe that's you and you want to maintain that. Maybe that's not you and you want to become that. But I think that's my best thing is fire up the old Google. You can use Gemini or Chat now. It's just as easy. and do a little bit of a competitive analysis on what they're offering. More likely than not, you're going to find that companies who are growing the fastest have 2 to 4 key offerings, right? They've got a basic, medium, and top. And we know from customer research that typically people will pick the middle thing. And so how do you design your packages and bundles from that research, knowing that your most ordered bundle is going to likely be that middle to be good enough, meaning number of photos, other add-on services, priced right, but also leave you room to push people to the higher tier where you have more margin, higher order value, obviously, and then keep a smaller bundle available for, there's just houses out there that they don't need a bunch of stuff. It's it's $150,000 potential tear down or reno, and you don't need to run a high-end video into there, just a lifestyle video. So, you could, it'd be pretty fun. But I think that's kind of the first step that I would look at it. I think it also, like today, what your average order value is a good piece of data. And I know you can look at all this stuff in the back end of Spiro. And if you can do some research of being like, okay, what's my number one add-on? Let's say it is floor plans, because it's a simple lower cost option compared to other things. If you're getting that 35%, okay, and what are you selling it for? You get your total revenue from that. You kind of figure out your profit, and then you figure out, how do I add this into a bundle? So one, I don't nuke a profit center. Nope, we don't ever want customers to do that from our perspective. But how do you adjust pricing, figure out photographer pay, and then build the bundle around maybe 2 to 3 things and start there for the base level. And I think that's kind of the first couple steps that I would do.
Yeah. Great advice. So see what the market's doing, then understand what your clients are ordering. I agree 100%. We have a big, a medium, and a small. Those are at the top of our order page. And we find that a lot of times agents come in, they get a listing, they're like, I'll order the middle. And then they order either side if it's that tear down, or it's like, hey, this is a luxury listing. And, luxury listing to them is more than their average list price, and they click that button. So one thing that I'd like to dive into a little bit is this idea of bundling multiple services together. And I think there's value on so many sides there, because one, at the end of the day, when agents order more from you, they have better marketing to not only sell the house, so sell the house less days on market, higher, list to sell price ratio. But again, the thing about the brain of a realtor is they're always trying to get more listings from one listing. They have this term, they call it having listing babies. I think it's another term that's funny, just makes me smile. And when you're a listing agent, you leverage your listings, Sign in the Yard, MLS, all the other websites out there with your face on it, so that people look and say, hey, I would like to buy this house. What is my house worth? And I have a house to sell. And then they just run this over and over again. So the idea of giving your agents more is better for them. And I just wanted to say that because I think at some point, some of us out there might feel bad trying to sell more. You might feel guilty. I think it's somewhat an owner's feeling. Like me, I'd give everything away for free if I could. I wouldn't charge anybody anything, because it's like I want everybody to be happy. Many of you are, high S personalities out there where you want everybody to be okay. But it's not you're actually helping an agent. And I think when you can get that in your head, you're serving them and not selling to them. Like if they get more listings by you bundling together services, you are helping them. So with bundling, I know there's many things as you bundle things together. Your add-ons typically have a higher margin, which means that maybe you can make it more attractive from a pricing perspective. But what are some techniques and some things to look at when we're building these bundles, Aaron?
Yeah, and on a note, I think you said high S, which I'm assuming you're referencing the disc profile.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I'm the opposite. I'm a high DI. So okay. It's the one who pushes because they like to. So I need a little more S in my life, I think. But I think, it is a good point, like switching your perspective from just being like, oh, I'm just a salesperson. Like one, that's like my life's work. So I don't take offense to it, but like you are serving a client. And if you truly believe that your products can help them, then that belief will carry over to their ability to use it. And I think that's a really important thing. As far as kind of techniques, I think every business owner needs to find a way to fall in love with their P&L. Because if they don't take some time once a month, once a week, whatever it is for the scale of your business, to look at your costs, your margins, you know, the ability to look at where most likely people's highest cost today is going to either be their editing or their people cost. And so, okay, how does that affect bundling? Well, you've got other costs. You've got Spiro, you've got Cubicasa, you've got, you know, other, you know, things that you're paying for every day, every week, and things like that. And if you look at each package, what is the cost of goods sold for every product you do? Like Todd said, find that margin. Find where you can compress on the low end. So you can take a lower end, maybe make a little bit less money on the low end, but it's a feeder for your medium package with the higher end. And then you have your top end package, which let's just say is ordered 20%, 15% of the time. You know, it's not going to be a loss leader on the front end, but you are going to be able to have a funnel to take people up to say, okay, I know how to coach them from first time customer. I'm just going to test you out with the lowest end package. I know exactly what I make there. It's not a ton, but I make money. Then I get them to the middle, and then I coach them when it's important to use that upper tier. But it's important about like what products go in there, because if you use all low margin products for all of your bundles, then you're going to have a hard time no matter what you do. And so you've got to figure out how to get the lowest cost from your providers. And I say that being a vendor, you know, we've built very specific, you know, programs that give our highest discounts, our best turnaround times and things to the people who use us more frequently. And so, you know, I think that's part of the structure where it's important to just take a peek at that P&L, know where each of your costs sits, where you can price it based off your market. Because if you're in LA County, it's going to be way different than Lima, Ohio. Todd knows that deeply. And then you build your goal based off that. It's like, okay, if I want 35, 40% of my orders to be that middle, what's my revenue goal for that package or bundle? And then you do that for each one, and then you can kind of back into, okay, now my 2026, you know, goal is X, and here's what I have to do to go execute on it. Because at the end of the day, you can do all the work you want on bundling, marketing from a website standpoint. But if you don't ever go talk to the customer about what you're doing, nobody's going to ever know what you have. And so it goes back to making sure the business is set up right, and then just go out and have that conversation.
Oh, I love that. I want to do one quick example, and then I have and then I want to pick your brain a little bit more about the statement you said about if you don't actually go out and talk to the customers, because I think that's so key here. But just to give you guys some insight, if you're going to do this activity, you should look at what the sale price is. So that's the total revenue at the top of. You can look at it from all your revenue on your P&L. You can email your bookkeeper, your accountant, and ask these questions. Or if you want to look at it from an individual package, what did you sell it for to the agent? Okay. And then you have some cost of goods, COGS, COGS. And I'll give you just some industry standards. So, because you're probably going to calculate your COGS, and then you're going to say, is this where I should be? And much like Aaron said, if you're in LA versus Lima, Ohio, they're pretty similar, but they're actually really different. You can make some adjustments based on like, hey, like it costs a lot more to live in LA than it does Lima. So what we have seen from an industry is your photographer cost. So what you pay a photographer to go out and do the job, this is to shoot it and also any mileage involved in that, you're going to be 25 to 35% of the total price of the package or the service. Okay. That's a bubble. That's what we've heard and that's what we've seen. Then the other item that you need to look at is your editing cost. So editing, Spiro cost, anything in there that was related to the job that happens every job you get. Okay, this is not your QuickBooks subscription. This is not your cell phone bill. This is just items related that happen every time that job turns. We have seen that you're going to be 5 to 10%. Okay, so you're going to be in that range for those fees. And now one thing is if you're doing your own editing, which nobody should be, and I think very few people are anymore, or if you're doing your own photography, this is probably more common. You need to add in what you should be paying yourself. Okay, just if you leave a hole there and you think you have this high margin, you're going to go hire someone and try to scale, and you're going to find that it doesn't work because you actually have to pay your photographers. So please add in. That's why I suggest when anybody sets up their Spiro system, if they're solo right now, to set your photographer payout so that you can understand these ratios. Okay, so I don't want to do too much math on here, but I just want to give you that range. You're probably in the 25 to 35% photographer cost and 5 to 10%, probably 8 to 10% on all honesty, is your editing and software cost. All right, sorry for all the math. Y'all can just snap back to now. Hopefully you didn't veer off the road with that and everybody's safe out there. So one thing, I love that you said, and you have a ton of experience with this, and you've sold to a lot of realtors with being the director of sales at Nextdoor Photos. You said if you don't actually go out and talk to your clients, but Aaron, that is a scary thing. Help us out.
Yeah. I mean, you talk to people every day. It's no different. I think that's the piece of this. And historically, photographers have pushed back on sales in the traditional sense because agents are salespeople. They get sold to every day. They sell to people every day. And so it can feel kind of like this weird mismatch of talent because you, as a photographer, maybe you got in the business, maybe you are a salesperson. I'd say that's great. Maybe you're not, and maybe you're a wedding photographer that got a couple clients. Then suddenly you're like, I'm making really good money doing this. I like this. I don't have to work all weekend anymore. And then you build out, this system. I think, and then you try to go talk to an agent who's a professional salesperson. And they push you around a little bit. We love our agents, but they're big personalities. And so you've got to be, that first go is never all that fun. That first cold call where they hang up on you or yell at you or whatever is the pain of everybody's existence in sales. But I think, in this whole age of AI and automation and drip campaigns and ads and all this kind of stuff, the number one thing you can do is walk into that office, pull that door open, bring something with you, drop it off at the front desk, ask to see the broker owner or the team lead or whatever type of brokerage you're going into. Say, hey, can I come in on your next sales meeting and talk about real estate photography to your team? 99% of the time, they're going to be like, yes, but it's going to be within 3 months. We got a bunch of people coming. But that's fine. Okay, now I got one on the list. When I was doing the local owner piece and doing the individual like on the ground sales, we had a goal of every day to go pull on a certain number of doors. And that's the beauty of real estate photography is it takes you to some far-flung reaches of whatever you define your territory is. And guess what is in every single town? Real estate offices with real live people in it that are ready to talk to you and with who have a need for what you do. And that to me, it trumps every other marketing activity in the world because when they know your name, they know your face, you're trustworthy, they'll trust you with their clients. It starts to create that snowball effect from the business standpoint because then you get one good agent in that office, then you get 3, then you get 5, then you get the brokerage deal, and then you just keep moving down the street until you establish yourself as a household name. And I think that's the other piece of it too, is if you live in a bigger region, let's say you live in Columbus, Ohio, you don't need to declare, I'm going to win Columbus. That's a big, big goal, right? Like how long did that take, Todd, for you? Like years?
I mean, we are barely double digits of market. Well, I think we're just teetering between single and double digits of market share. So even us, we've been in Columbus, Ohio for 10 plus years, and we aren't even double digits of market share.
Yeah, I mean, but that doesn't mean it's not an incredible profit center for you guys too, right?
Right.
So I think it's about like, what's a suburban? Where do you live? What's the mid-size suburban central area that you live? Go be the king of that place first, or the queen of that place first. And I live in a little county called Livingston County. It's a great place to live, very community focused. But that's where I centered my efforts on because I could have gone further east and focused on Metro Detroit. But I was like, I know people here. I've got 2 really incredible clients here. And how do I multiply that? And so at the end of that first year, we were doing, nearly $200,000 of business in one single county. But that was only because I spent all my time there. And so between shoots, everybody's got time between shoots to go drive and pull 2 doors. Don't go to Panera. Don't eat a bread bowl. Like, go to that office and go make some friends, and just always have stuff in the trunk of your car to give away. Little tchotchkes are great. Printed materials, even better. Just go pull on those doors. And after you do it 5 times a day for a week, you'll get used to it. After 3 weeks, you'll be a pro.
Yeah. Such good advice. I love that there's another verbal attached to that. I'm huge on verbals as well. Like, pull on doors. Just think of that. The next time, like, I got to go pull that door open, and everybody, you can be aligned with it, even if it's just you, but tell your VA, hey, I got to pull on 2 doors. And they're like, what do you mean? I just think there's so much great stuff there, and you've done this for so long, it shows. I'm so glad you made the point as to, I get this question asked all the time on coaching calls and in group calls, where they're saying, hey, should I set up this CRM? Should I do this email marketing? Should I do these things? I think I'm really going to go all in on sending these types of digital communications. And I'm not here to tell you that there's not a time and a place for that. But if you do what is hard, go and pull on 2 doors a day, life will become easy. And that is something that I just want. If it makes you uncomfortable, the idea of walking into a real estate office, you should probably do it. And I was on a coaching call this week with a coach that I sit in with and just listen to. He coaches realtors, and he allows me to be in this and listen, and I learn as well. They are talking about cold calling or making calls, not even necessarily cold calling. But the idea is, like, if you've never done this before, the first door you pull on is going to be the hardest, because you're going to psych yourself up in the car. You're probably going to leave 1 or 2 or 10 parking lots because you've psyched yourself out too much. But that first door is going to be the hardest, and it only gets easier from there. So I highly agree with Aaron with this idea of building relationships, getting to know people, connecting with people human to human. We are just strong proponents and strong supporters of that idea. Now, Aaron, so give us a cheat sheet. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. I hope this is okay for a Friday morning when we record this. But say I am doing that. I'm walking into that door, and I have this idea of trying to set the meeting. That's great. That's a great idea. Get on the books for a meeting. Even if it's 3 months from now, it's a success. It's something that you've accomplished. Let's go back to the idea of, like, let's say I'm talking to an individual realtor or smaller group, and I'm trying to tell them the importance, features, benefits, if you will, of, like, why they should take more than photos only with a floor plan. That's a 2D, 3D, whatever services you want. But can you give us just some verbiage that we might be able to use when we walk in to help the agents understand the importance and how they're going to have more listing babies by using floor plans?
Yeah, between F-pull, listing babies, and pulling doors, I think we might have our own dictionary of new sayings after this. So I think, I tend to be guided by current events as what my value add is. Inherently, we all know media does better for listings on any portal, on the MLS, whatever. We know, certain types of media do better. But I think when you go to product-based selling and you're so specific that my high quality lifestyle video is going to get you more shoes, it doesn't resonate in the same way of maybe something more specific that they're feeling, right? I think of this as like, what's the stack of pain that everybody deals with every single day? And then from a listing agent, point of view, or just a general agent point of view, media is somewhere in the middle of that stack. It becomes urgent when they win a listing, but up until that point, they're not thinking about how videos are going to help them every day. They're thinking about how to get that next listing, how to not lose their current listing, and how to survive in this world of, commission compression and litigation and portal wars and brokerage wars and all this kind of stuff. And so we have to be really honest with ourselves that we're not the most important thing in their lives right now. We may be at some point, but every day on the average day, it's just not going to be that. And so I think I look to, like, what pain do you want to remove from their lives? And to me, that means, how am I going to make them stand out as compared to every other agent that's pitching that listing? Because there's going to be multiple agents on every listing pitching something. And what services and the way you provide your service can make them differentiated. And so I would talk about, the lack of listings, the time on market has increased. Todd, you came up in the same time I did. Back in 2017, 18, 19, and 20, we had crazy years, right? Where just listings I think we were up to 6 million plus listings a year, and we're now in 4 million. So it's just a different landscape. And so how do we take that and say, okay, the person who utilizes my real estate photography business is going to get photos. They're going to get other add-ons. Let's just use floor plans. It's an easy one for me. They're going to get an option of a drone, a 3D, a lifestyle video, or a walkthrough video. And then how do you then use that in the long tail to win that next listing baby, right? And I think that's where you coach them on. One piece of listing media is great to get a house sold. That's a fair statement. If your house has professional, high-quality real estate photography on it, that's a good thing, and we're happy about that. But to share it on social, what's the most interactive feature? Video. To share it on an email list with investors, floor plans, maybe 3D. To have something after the fact of like a lookbook for your future listing presentations, photos, floor plans, testimonials, different things like that. But again, I think you said this too, like coaching them to understand that how they share this outside of the MLS is an incredible value that we as in the real estate photography business can offer, because more media, more posts, more interaction doesn't necessarily sell the house, but it most certainly gets you more eyeballs on you and your brand from a real estate agent standpoint. And I think that's what I would go in and talk about is, we're not just here for the one listing, we're here to get you your next listing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is, and that's a great way that you're going to differentiate yourself from the next photographer who comes in and says, hey, I've got a really great camera and I take good photos. When you can connect with them and understand their pain and what they're trying to solve, I think that's so insightful. We talked about this idea. I had an agent, and this was coincidentally the agent that I was talked about who coaches now, but he was a client of mine many years ago when he was selling real estate, and I went in to sell him, if you will, and we're big on, and I was big on like doing a video, much like you mentioned, Aaron, like videos. Hey, get the listing, get its attention on social media. This was probably 10 or 15 years ago. So we were still drawing floor plans on, graph paper. And he said, okay, great. Doing a video will help me get a listing. So I'll do the videos and then I'll just delete them. I'm like, Austin, what do you mean? He's like, well, why would I spend my time? I'm like, no, you need to link it on. He's like, well, why would I spend my time linking this anywhere? Like, I'm going to get the listing. Like, what does it matter? I'll show it in the listing presentation, get the listing, and then I'm going to delete it. Or I'm not going to have anybody spend any more time on it. And I think just the why behind is so important. And we all know, and maybe we don't, maybe it's time to brush up on some of these whys with these features and benefits and how your agents use them. But I made this mistake with one of our largest clients. And I remember I sat down with her and she brought this idea to me. I think it was like, hey, could we be on camera? This was probably 10 years ago. Or do you do this type of service? Or it would be great if you could start doing this service. And she thought she had this brand new idea. And like, we had been doing that service forever. So like, I just didn't take it upon myself to put myself in their shoes and to slow down a little bit, to spend time with the agents, to spend time telling them what and where. So I think it's a very important thing that Aaron brought up is like their pain point is probably not you right now. And if you can align to what their current pain point is, you then become relevant sitting there at that table drinking coffee with them.
Yeah, and I think too, like it's really, really, really incredibly easy to sit here on a Friday morning after 3 cups of coffee and tell people how they should do it. So I think it's important to recognize, like throughout all these processes and years, and I'm sure Todd has, the good old war story. Like you're going to walk through a door, you're going to think you're going to pitch something great. You're going to walk out and be like, I said nothing, I left nothing, and I have no idea what happened. And that's just life. And I think that's that's what keeps things fun and interesting is you can look back on, certain experiences or full brokerage meetings where you just bomb, but then you take it and learn from it in the future. But I think the part that is the thing that needs to be done, and I think Todd, you said this too, is like do the hard thing over and over, and it just becomes part of your normal day. And I think that's the part where photographers are so good at dialing in their product and dialing in their offering and making sure everything looks great. But that same level of effort on top of, the business will yield whatever. If you just want to be a great high volume single shooter, you get there. If you want to build teams and grow regionally, you will do that. But being in this role that I'm in now, I have an opportunity to talk to every spectrum of leader in the photography business world. And I tell you, the number one thing that helps them is having equal, maniacal focus on product and in their business. And it's very rare to see one or the other.
Yeah, for sure. And that's having both of those and both of those sides really help you continue to expand and grow and reach your goals. Grow doesn't mean that you're growing in numbers, just like Aaron said, but ultimately reaching your goals. And that goal is, and sometimes I forget this and it's easy, but the goal is the personal reason why you started your business. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in I'm going to sacrifice personal for my business, and then eventually I'll get to personal. And that's just a long, twisty road that I don't think ever loops back, or at least it didn't in my situation. Aaron, when you were at Sync, you shared a cool thing that is relatively new that you guys worked really hard on, your marketplace. Can you let us know a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah. So a month or so ago, we launched our photographer marketplace, in which we created profiles for all of our users across the globe that showcases their business information. It's customizable, so you can log into your Cubicasa account and edit this as well. It showcases how long you've been in business, how big you are, where you serve, what you service, your product set, as well as kind of some recent shoot examples, as well as your kind of heat map based off where you've done scans. The whole goal of this is we kind of looked up sometime last year and realized we had a really large photographer list of customers, and we got kind of excited about how can we utilize that and give agents or brokerages a way to find photographers. Because on the other side of it, I'm sure lots of people know we've gotten lots of feedback around this other program we offer, which is our MLS partnerships. And we go and we build partnerships with the MLSs to basically help provide this trust and safety layer to say, we like this floor plan, we trust the information behind it, we want our subscribers and agents to use it. We've got 150 of those, over 1 million agents under subscribership in those MLSs. And our next phase is trying to push that marketplace into the MLS to say, hey, if you need a photographer, go to this place, and it'll highlight what they do for how much and give them a place to say, hey, I want to reach out to this person and book a shoot, or I want more information, or give me a call, or whatever that is. And so we've got an internal metric. We want to send leads to every photographer. We don't charge anything for this. We don't ask for anything in return. We don't follow up on the lead on your behalf. We just want to be that clearinghouse, because we have two sides of interested parties that we can connect and add more value to our photographers every single day.
Oh, that is fabulous. And that is live for all of you. Just log into the Cubicasa account. It is live. It's not like something you have to click the button. So there is something out there for you if you have your Cubicasa account. If you want to customize it, log in, and there's lots of fun things you can do with it.
Yep. Yeah, and part of that feedback loop came from too is we launched integrations with Redfin and Realtor.com, which automatically host the floor plan our Cubicasa tour in a more enhanced manner. So they look a little bit different depending on which portal you're on, but they bring them out of the carousel. They're still in there. The way the agent set them up in the MLS, we don't adjust that, but we do bring a viewer that's a little bit more interactive into that. And now for our preferred photographers, we have photographer branding inside of those as well, so that as agents view those listings on those portals, they can see inside of that tour or floor plan, it's got your company name in there, clicks it, it goes out to that photographer's profile. Again, because we believe, that photographers are and will continue to be the lifeblood and, field team to get the best media out there. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a place for those to do that. It's still new. So if I get any emails about I haven't gotten any leads yet, we promise this is the year that we're spending an immense amount of time on it and resources, but we're really excited for that. And, we hope to kind of be that place where, you can look at it as a growth piece that you don't really have to do anything for. And it's just nice that since you partner with Cubicasa, that you get this other benefit.
Yeah, I love that you guys are always supporting the community. Now, I don't know how much I heard something about a date coming up in March, Aaron. I mean, don't let me strong arm you into giving any information, but what is something happening in March?
Yeah, so towards the end of March, we are going to be launching a new product. Some of us internally joke that it's the best, worst kept secret. But, I will say we've got something really exciting coming up for our photographers that will help you, continue to save money, time. I always say internally the number of tabs you have open on your browser from a provider and vendor sense. So stay tuned. We'll be making big announcements around that coming, towards the end of March.
Great. That's exciting. How can we find out more about Cubicasa, contact the team if we have questions?
Yeah, follow our socials. Our marketing person would be very sad if I didn't say that. So find us on Instagram and Facebook. We've got a great user Facebook group as well if you ever want to interact with that. The great Tammy manages that group, who everybody knows and loves out in the industry. But if you ever have any questions, you can email sales@cubicasa.com. We've got a great team who can follow up and make sure that you get what you need, even if it's just questions, feedback. And I always like to anchor on feedback. Our chief product officer, we call him Oppie, but his name is Arne. Every Friday afternoon, he spends an hour reviewing customer feedback. So if you send something in to us, that's feedback. Our support team tags it as that. It goes into a special inbox, and there is never a piece of feedback that goes unread. And I can tell you from being a participant in a lot of these planning meetings, we hear about it. And once we get kind of a groundswell of what people want to change, we've absolutely integrated it. So keep sending it. And things like that. And then I'd be remiss not to add, if you are interested in becoming a preferred photographer where you add a floor plan on every listing, always feel free to reach out. If you have questions about it, our team's great. They'll take a look at the cost. They'll help you calculate things, and they won't yell at you if the cost doesn't fit at that point in time. We'll continue on working together either way.
Oh, that's great. Lots of great resources for you all. Thanks for supporting the community, Aaron. Be sure to check out, keep an ear out for that announcement coming up. And also, just to mention, Cubicasa is completely integrated inside of Spiro, so we make it easy for you. Again, I love the idea of less tabs. If you ever have a Zoom call with Nick Kellis on my team, I love him to death, but he always has 342 tabs open, and I love to give him a hard time for it. So the less tabs, the better. But you are integrated, which makes it super simple. You never have to create a project inside a Cubicasa app. The draft's created for you. The floor plan and the other media as you choose comes right back in. So trying to streamline your process together with Cubicasa, and we are excited about this partnership. Aaron, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. I hope you guys keep us up to date with what's happening in the industry, and enjoy the slopes this weekend.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having us. Spiro's been an incredible partner, and thanks for all you do for the industry and being the plumbing of all the media that gets out and about. So we appreciate it.
Hey, I love that. I'm happy to be the plumbing. It's I don't know something clever to say with that, but I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, that's your next outfit for Spiro Sync, is a plumber's outfit.
Yeah, I need something good. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to run with that. So,
awesome. Thanks again, Todd.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thanks so much. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us this week. We are back with another exciting guest next week. This is our series of having guests on from Sync to teach you what they brought to the conference. So we're excited to continue through this series. If you have a topic idea, please let us know, though. We're always happy to discuss this. Many of you are like, hey, the only problem with the podcast is you need to do it twice a week. I was like, thank you, for listening to me. And twice a week, wow, that's a lot of Todd and Craig. So we have some ideas, though, of maybe some other people at Spiro or WOW that you all are getting to know. But if you have an idea, let us know. We always want to support you. We're here for you. You can email us hello@spiro.media. And if it's attention to Todd or Craig, just put it in there and the team will get it over to us, and we really will read it, much like Arn does at Cubicasa. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for spending some time with us. Be sure to be thankful for all the blessings you have and take a breath. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for the Spiro Podcast, Managing Your Real Estate Photography and Videography Business. This is a production of Spiro and Wow Video Tours. You can find out more about Spiro's real estate media business management software at our website, spiro.media.